Hi. So people shouldn't complain about $80 games, says ex-PlayStation boss. So this is Metro GC, Game Central, but I saw this through a couple other articles. I feel like this one has a little bit more meat to it, so I'm going to use this one in particular. Sony veteran Shuhei Yoshida has defended the rising cost of games as he supports the idea of variable pricing. Between the anger around Nintendo's $74.99 price tag for Mario Kart World and increased costs across Xbox games, it's clear game prices will be a big topic for months to come. GTA 6 looks like it's set to become a key talking point in this debate, with analysis predicting that it could cost upwards of $100. That's one of the things that I've actually saw people trying to float the idea of GTA 6 being $100 and being justified in its pricing. Now, the trailer for GTA 6 just dropped, and people are kind of talking about a lot of the high-end graphical showcases for things, but I don't think many people are really taking the bait. Half of the people are like, oh, this looks like it'll be something awesome. This would be like something that I want to play. The other half is like, we've seen bull shots before during E3 presentations, and this could possibly be bull shots. Who knows? The thing is, if we get to the point of $100 games, that's going to it's going to do some interesting things. Namely, if we deal with increasing prices within the industry itself, I think a lot of the problem is going to be going forward. One, how on earth are you going to justify those prices? Now, you could use value as an option. Value could be a very good option for that. Nintendo goes by the option of giving you value based off of like your money. So the $80 Mario Kart game has an open world aspect. There's tons of carts, tons of characters, tons of unlockables, lots of online play and stuff like that. They're looking at that from the value perspective of that. GTA 6, I guess you could make the same argument because it also has an open world, also has a lot of side quests and actual main quest content. There's going to be an online segment that's dropping for that, and it's going to be it's a lot of stuff for your buck. So I can kind of see where variable pricing would play a part in that. And personally, my feelings on that, what I was getting to was there's going to come a point where if the AAA segment of games or the high-end avenue of gaming is $70, $80, $90, $100 for games, you're going to see a lot of curb spending there, because there's going to come a point where it is kind of untenable to exist in the space of gaming. You have to remember, gaming is a hobby. It's a luxury. If it's too expensive to do all that, people are going to either A, go back into their backlogs, which you're going to see a lot of that. You're seeing a lot of that right now. People are kind of foregoing a lot of the modern games and kind of going back into their backlogs. They're rediscovering older games and actually kind of having fun with a lot of those older games. Capcom's capitalizing on that now with the Fighting Collection 2, with Capcom vs. SNK 2 being the main draw. People are discovering rival schools. People are rediscovering Plasma Sword and games like that. So those games are basically making a comeback, albeit the Capcom Fighting Collection has its fair share of problems, mainly the censorship, which I don't necessarily like. I can go back and actually play these games on Dreamcast personally, and I probably get more out of that. But they're going to curb their spending. They're going to focus on games that are more to their interest, things they're going to find value into, and they're going to stick to those games, which is going to see a probably drop in sales. And if the market is hitting that point where we're only focusing on X number of games, sales are dropping and things like that, you're going to see a huge change, or we have a AAA industry crash, which leads us back to where we were years ago, where we only focus on the indies and double A's, and they actually do start paying attention to the types of games that they put out. You might see a drop in the amount of slop that comes out, and that might fix the industry. I don't know. I personally have this feeling that if we're heading towards a crash, we might as well just head towards a crash and see where things lie afterwards, because this is getting kind of ridiculous. Why are we spending this much money on digital games when digital games should be cheaper? If I were to go have a meal at a restaurant for like a reasonable price. If I pay like say $10 for a meal and I get a really big substantial meal and it fills me up, that's a value. That makes me feel like I'm getting more than what I bargained for. But I feel like my money is actually going further. That's what a value should be. But let me get into this actual article here. So in a new interview, former PlayStation executive Shuhei Yoshida, who recently expressed his disappointment with the Switch 2, has addressed concerns around gaming prices, which are rising, and he doesn't think that it's a bad thing. Speaking to Critical Hits, Yoshida expresses support for variable pricing. I don't believe every game has to be priced the same. Each game has different value that it provides or the size of the budget. I totally believe that's up to the publishers, developers, or self-publishing decision to price their product to the value that they believe that they're bringing in. Now, that sounds reasonable, but it also, going back to what I was saying earlier about feeling like your dollar is actually going further, that kind of, it gains trust in the product. So if I feel like my dollar is going further if I purchase this thing, that's brand loyalty. I actually develop a form of brand loyalty, and I feel like I can go back to this brand time and time again and feel like I'm getting something out of this. And that's kind of that's the trust between the consumer and the actual company. That's something that really needs to be established, because you are losing a lot of trust in the consumer when you kind of you put out these prices, whatever, and especially in the case of what I was talking about with digital games. If there is no oversight, no extra manufacturing costs or anything like that for a digital game, to price it like astronomically so, it just seems like you're taking advantage of the consumer. And that's the problem. That's the problem. You have to make people feel like they're actually getting something out of this. If it's a sales, or the concept of a sale is it's a transaction between one party to another party, but you actually want that other party to feel like they're not being cheated, and you don't want to feel like you're being cheated. So it's interesting. I see where people are coming from on variable pricing, but I don't necessarily know if I have a bunch of questions. I really do. In terms of actual price, $70 or $80 for really great games, I think will be a steal in terms of the amount of entertainment that top quality games bring to people compared to other forms of entertainment, Yoshida said. As long as people choose carefully on how they spend their money, I don't think they should be complaining about it. Now, here's the problem with that. A lot of the AAA market games, or a lot of the games that have come out in the last couple months to the last 10 years, you have a lot of games that aren't necessarily considered top quality games. There's a lot of games that are kind of been considered slop, or considered to be dubious quality of games. That's where your wrong, bucko, comes in. I'm only saying that because if the amount of games that we had, and considering the fact that we had to suffer through games like Concord, Veligard, and Dustborn, and then you had quite a few games from a series that you enjoyed that wound up degrading over time because of ideological bullshit that's basically been dumped into it, like say Assassin's Creed or Mirror's Edge. It's a bigger ask to try to tell people that, hey, you should be spending $70 or $80 on games. If the games are like decent quality, then I would say, okay, now you can start making that big ask of, these games are top-notch games. A lot of games that we're dropping off, you have a higher ratio of top quality games. If what's coming out is mainly slop with a bunch of gems, but you have to sift through that slop to get to the gems, it has you questioning a lot of stuff. And this is the type of mentality that will lead to crashes, because once people get to a point where they're frustrated and they're just done, they don't want anything to do with that, they're going to walk away from that. And you're seeing the problems that you're seeing here, that you're going to pretty much make with this behavior. You've seen those problems play out in other places like streaming services, which are going through a stagnation period. You're looking at the movie industry. AMC just posted was it $100 million losses, whatever. It's ridiculous. But you have to think, like, the crop of movies that have come out have been varying degrees, questionable quality. You're just now starting to see movies that people actually give a damn about. Like, I've been hearing stuff about Sinners, which I need to actually go see. But Sinners is one movie. And that's the thing, is like, if I have to sift through like a bunch of bad movies to get to the 2 or 3 good movies that come out per year, I'm not really getting any value there. If I have to sift through like maybe 5 or 10 good games in a sea of really crappy games, especially on the AAA end, I'm not getting any value there. As long as people choose carefully on how they spend their money, I don't think they should be complaining about it. I think people should be complaining. I think complaining is a very important part of the consumer end of things. Consumer advocacy is complaining, because in order to point out a problem, in order for people to fix it, you kind of have to complain. You got to make a little noise. So telling people they don't have a right to complain, I think that's a bad take. People choosing to be careful about how they spend their money is probably going to be a byproduct of industry of AAA games starting at like $80 to $90, in some cases $100. People are going to be choosy, and that's going to curb spending, and it's probably going to kill a lot of this noise and basically like shutter the AAA industry. If we keep at this, if this is the direction you guys want to go, I hope you're ready for the consequences of your actions. So anyways, Clear Obscure Expedition 33, for example, is moderately priced at $50 and takes around 30-40 hours to beat when compared to the average $15 cinema ticket. In terms of franchises like Mario Kart, which release new games very infrequently, there's an argument that $74.99 price point for Mario Kart World is justified based off of the quality and staying power of a multiplayer title, especially given $7 games like EA Sports, FC, and Call of Duty are released every year. However, the acceptance of these price points has perhaps become difficult to swallow due to the influx of free-to-play titles. When you can play Fortnite or Apex Legends for free, or Marvel Rivals, which is actually doing very well for itself, the idea of paying $80 for a game suddenly looks outdated and unappealing. And that's something that they're going to have to compete with as well. That's probably going to hurt the AAA market even more so, considering. It remains to be seen that even if these increased price points will actually affect sales, but it's easy to see Yoshida's point of view, even if it's not one that will be greeted with much enthusiasm by the average gamer. So that's the article. But that's my problem, is we're rushing headlong into this weird place in the industry, but we're not paying attention to the consequences, to the fact that there's a free-to-play alternative that might actually do more harm to that $70 model, or $70, $80, $90 model. And I'm just befuddled by this direction that the industry wants to go. But again, if you want to go headlong into a crash, I'm not going to stop you. We've been through like at least 2 crashes, and it always seems to reset the board and kind of reprioritize the customer value. Anyways, my dog's howling at me, so I'm going to take him out. Thank you for joining me for this. See you next boss fight. Take care.